it's very easy to do. So if I'm saying that you're investing 1.5 years in preparation full time, and if you're really not making an effort to have that edge, because every year standard बढ़ता जा रहा है. I mean, you'll see the kind of people who are getting through. They're way more intelligent. They've started preparation. I mean, I've been getting mails for students who've just passed out of class 12th or just doing class 11th. So that's the kind of enthusiasm for this exam. And if you're really giving full time to this preparation and you're complacent, I mean, you're digging your own grave.
Every year, there are many who apply for the UPSC civil service exams and wish to reach that coveted list. But there are very few who actually get through to it. This year, the Civil Service Exams 2019 prelims is soon coming. And now I'm sure all of you must be preparing for it. Hi everyone, welcome to Chamomile Tea with Toppers, an initiative by Unacademy. I'm Fiona. And आज हमारे साथ एक ऐसे टॉपर है जिन्होंने सिविल सर्विस एग्जाम्स 2018 में एक ऑल इंडिया रैंक 35 अचीव किया था. Everyone, let's hear her story. She's Meenal Karanwal. Hi Meenal, welcome to the show.
Hi Fiona, thank you.
So first of all, Meenal, before we even start, a very hearty congratulations from the entire Unacademy team. How does it feel? कैसा लग रहा है आपको?
Thank you so much for the congratulations and for having me here. As far as the feeling is concerned, I'm surely elated. I mean, who wouldn't be to be here?
True.
And yes, that's all. I mean, I'm very, very happy for myself. Truly, when your hard work pays off this way, it really feels nice.
Great. So एक चीज़ मीनल जब मैं आपके बारे में पढ़ रही थी, I saw that your dad recently had his retirement ceremony, and this ceremony is one जिसके लिए you really wanted to give a speech at his ceremony, and you wanted to be successful before you give this speech. So what was it all about? बताओगे आप हमारे aspirants?
Sure, why not? So my father, when he was serving in State Bank of India for the last 35 years, and he couldn't really take a very high promotion because of his health issues. So, there were people who raised eyebrows on his capabilities, etc., without knowing the real issues. But he never got bogged down, and he always thought that he needs to work on his children. The idea of human capital, way before, Amartya Sen and others came up with it. So he really worked hard to make us who we are, me and my brothers. And there was this one thing that when he retires, I really want to give a speech and let people very explicitly know about how hardworking and disciplined he is. And that really happened, which is very recently on 30th April. I was there at his felicitation ceremony. And apart from him being felicitated for his work with State Bank, he was more congratulated for who I became. So that happiness in his face, that feeling of pride is unparalleled that I could feel. I mean, more than being happy for myself, I knew that I've done something which makes him proud. So that was an event to be remembered.
So, this entire thought of joining the civil services, when did it come to you? And, कब आपने ऐसे सोचा कि भाई मुझे भी IAS बनना है, मुझे भी, I want to do something for the country. कब लगा आपको ये?
I mean, there've been phases for me. So I was someone who set out to become a doctor first. I was someone who opted for biology in 11th and 12th with the hope that I'll become a doctor. But I don't know from where and how that entire dream of mine phased out. So once this maternal uncle of mine, he's distantly related and he serves in the revenue service. He called me, and I was someone who was good academically. So he was like, "What are you planning to do after class 12th?" I said, "I might take a drop year and prepare for medical." And he was like, "Why? I mean, you're so bright academically. Why don't you go for civil services?" So this is the first seed that was put in my mind. And my father got a competition success review, which is which was, I think, this really famous civil services oriented magazine. So I really read about the toppers and the exams, and I felt even more interested because I'd lost my interest in biology at that time. So also luckily I got this really good percentage in class 12th. I applied to St. Stephen's and I got through, and since then it's always been civil services, even though the working for it started later, but the dream was conceptualized in college after school.
So Meenal, you just mentioned St. Stephen's. So, I would really want to know about your educational background, because हमारी बहुत सारी aspirants हमें लिखते भी हैं on, our community की they want to know कि toppers हमेशा कैसे रहे. Were they always very good at academics? Is it necessary कि you have to be from a very good college to, clear the services? बहुत लोग ये भी पूछते हैं that is it mandatory that you need to be very good in English? फिर ही आपकी, interview rounds अच्छी जाती है and list में आपका नाम आता है. So, what was your educational background?
So I'll answer that question two parts में. The first is my educational background. I've been an academically bright student. I passed out of class 12th. मेरा aggregate score around 97% था.
Okay.
And मैंने PCB पढ़ी थी 12th तक. Then I went on to St. Stephen's where I again became department topper with an aggregate of nearly 80%.
Wow.
So yes, I've been academically bright और मतलब that does help because a sense of diligence, hard work, मेहनत, focus रहता है, वो सब developed आपका already होता है. These are not new qualities that you need to develop. Howsoever, it's not a universal principle. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप पढ़ाई में अच्छे नहीं थे, so you will not perform well in UPSC because this is also an exam that tests your common sense. And as I state very repeatedly कि ये exam basic comprehension और analytical skills test करता है. तो अगर आपका mind attention है, आपका focus है, आपका hard work है, so irrespective कि आपका academic background bright रहा है कि नहीं, वो matter नहीं करता. And as far as Hindi medium and English medium is concerned, again, what they are testing in answer writing skills as well as in the interview is how well you can put your thoughts. And that can happen in a very, very basic English because I remember I had to unlearn so many things in the exam because I was someone who writes in flowery language, long sentences. मतलब हमें बोला गया कि छोटा करो sentences so that it becomes easily readable, how a child of class 6th writes. So for me, there is no hard and fast typecast for this exam until unless you're very focused, dedicated and you have basic intelligence, जिसे मैं common sense कहती हूँ, you can absolutely clear this exam. That's my guarantee.
Okay, that's great. So अब क्योंकि 2019 के prelims आने ही वाले हैं very soon. So like if you were an aspirant right now, what would you say to the fellow aspirants कि अब ये जो एक महीना या कुछ बचा रहता है, in this what is the last few things they should definitely be doing?
Very relevant question. I say this because the last few days are days where your anxiety shoots up. And the amount that you're giving to your study qualitatively comes down, even though you're sitting with the books. So what I tell people is, for example, today there are around 25 days left. Do not consider them as 25. Uska आधा consider करो. There are just 12 days left for the exam. Because if every candidate is given 15 more days to clear the exam, वो सब clear कर जाएंगे. Because maximum जो plateau करते हैं वो cut off से 2-3 number नीचे तक करते हैं. And then they just rant how I could have scored 2 more and 3 more. You didn't because you were not prepared. Okay. So the fact is that only 12 days are left for your exam. Probably take it as 20th May as your exam. Okay. And what your focus should be right now is two things very specifically. One is revisions. I believe in repeated iterations of it. जैसे आज मैं पॉलिटी पढ़ रही हूँ, इन्वायरमेंट पढ़ रही हूँ, कल मैं इन्वायरमेंट पढ़ूंगी, ज्योग्राफी पढ़ूंगी, डे थर्ड पे मैं पॉलिटी पढ़ूंगी और इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ूंगी. So repeated iterations where you flip the pages of the book, and if the time of flipping is not reducing, that means you're doing something wrong. So Lakshmikant and Spectrum needs to be read 20 times and 15 times again and again and again and again, so that even under that stressful environment in the day of the exam, you're really able to think and work on it. And the second aspect is practice. Again, oft repeated but less done is two things. Last year के question paper को देखते रहो, खाना खाते हुए या फिर anywhere, because there are questions and patterns that UPSC repeats. Okay. Not necessarily the exact question, but maybe related aa jaye, and then it's a controversial question. So what was UPSC's answer key? That should always be your eye. And of course mocks. Give 2-3 comprehensive tests. There are always these all India mocks being conducted. Give that to see if you come in the top 10%. That means you've studied, otherwise you've not.
Okay. So, because you mentioned the mocks, तो एक चीज़ मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूँगी कि ये जो mocks होते हैं, test series होते हैं, aspirants को कब से ये देना शुरू करना चाहिए? Like, is it right from the beginning, or maybe 2 or 3 months down the preparation? कब exactly उनको शुरू करना चाहिए?
So, firstly, there will never be a right time to start writing tests because माइंड में सोचते रहते हैं कि अभी कोर्स पूरा हो जाएगा तब दे देंगे, तब हो जाएगा तब दे देंगे. द कोर्स इज सो वास्ट. यू शुड नेवर लिटरली वेट फॉर अ राइट टाइम, बट ऑल्सो दैट यू नीड टू फिनिश योर बेसिक बुक्स बिफोर यू पिक अप अ टेस्ट, बिकॉज देन इट्स ऑफ नो कॉन्सिक्वेंस. So also giving a test, your aim should not be very hard scoring, like number lane. Of course the focus needs to be am I really applying what I read? So when you start solving tests is when you do your basic books, and that can happen in any span of time that you are comfortable with. 7th.
Okay. So अब क्योंकि मीनल ये आपकी थर्ड अटेम्प्ट थी, राइट?
Yeah.
तो पहले 2 अटेम्प्ट कैसे गए थे? What happened in the first 2
So
attempts?
my first 2 attempts, I did not clear prelims. My first prelim score was 103, the cutoff was 116. My
Okay.
second prelim score was 100, the cutoff was 105.
Okay.
And the reasons have been several and manifold that I've stated again and again. The first is very basic. I didn't study. That is, the kind of focus and dedication that one should have towards studies was not there. I was
Okay.
very nonchalant and ignorant. Like, ho jayega, pad lenge,
Mhm.
kya hi badi baat hai. I've been academically bright. So there was a sense of complacency that had crept in. And so in the first attempt, there was neither revisions, nor practice, and nor proper study. So that
Okay.
is where I faltered. And in the second attempt, there were note making and there was practice, but revision was very poor.
Okay.
So, I did manage to reach 100, but then it was not enough.
Mhm.
Third attempt, really, that was like a wake-up call that you need
Mhm.
to change a lot of things to clear it.
So that finally अब थर्ड में आपका प्रीलिम्स भी क्लियर हो गया. So let's get down to prelims. Prelims के लिए like if I just go back a little bit and ask you that जब आपने तैयारी शुरू की थी,
Yeah.
because again as you also rightly said the syllabus is so vast. तो आपने डिसाइड कैसे किया कि शुरू कहाँ से करना है, पढ़ना क्या है, क्या करना है? How did you understand that?
So I'll tell you, humanities students have a problem.
Okay.
That is, they're very descriptive in their approach because वो objectives कभी solve किए ही नहीं हैं.
अच्छा.
So the kind of strategy that is required, कितने questions कैसे solve करने and all of that was absolutely missing. So I was reading endlessly, and if you see the notes that I made in the first attempt were like a summary, how we do Pressy writing in school, which is absolutely like a big no.
Okay.
So what I did in my first 2 attempts was lack of strategy, I would say. I mean, hard work, but strategy in the sense that I did not know how to divide my course and study and revise and all of that.
Okay.
Third attempt, when there was like do it or die, my focus was entirely on how to really make effective notes for prelims.
Okay.
Because I had read the books cover by cover, but they were not working out that well. So I decided to make short keyword-oriented notes, like if there is a topic about temples. So I used to write down what kind of architecture, what kind of characteristics, and then the examples, so that when I was revising it again and again, I could recall those words. You know how you have pictographic memories?
Yeah.
You remember things you've seen much more than you've heard.
Okay.
So that was my entire focus, and of course practice took its own toll, so that was something different.
Great. So prelims की अब अगर हम तैयारी के बारे में बोले तो before prelims obviously we know हमारा CSAT भी है, right?
Yeah.
So like उसकी तैयारी आपने कैसे की थी? Because you were a humanities student.
Yes.
तो बहुत सारे students जो है actually humanities background से वो पूछते हैं कि maths even though it's basic फिर भी उनको उसमें भी मुश्किल
That's
आती
true.
है. तो like उनका question है how do we prepare for it? How can we ensure that even though it's a qualifying paper that they manage to qualify?
So I've been very horrified of CSAT, given that I left maths in class 10th.
Okay.
So, but I did have science till 12th, so that objective mindset was still there. But for CSAT, I feel there are 3 sections. There's maths, there's logic, and there's comprehension. So for me, comprehension was strong. My logic was also fine. Like I could attempt those. Some people are sitting around the table and this and that. I could attempt those kind of questions.
Okay.
When it comes to maths, it guarantees you a certain score because there's just one answer, unlike in comprehensions. So all those who've not read maths beyond 10th tak to compulsory hoti in most schools, is that there are certain basic topics that are stated in the syllabus, like ratio proportion and profit and loss. So if you could really practice 2-3 standard questions, I'm not telling you to pick up R.S. Sharma and practice it again and again, but basic topics in which you know the formula that, okay, what is selling price and whatever, discounts, and you know the method of solving it. So that will not take much time. And here the key is to solve the last 5-year papers, because CSAT has had a very definite pattern, but this year it was a little different. They have more graphs and that was easier to solve. So I don't know what googly they're going to throw the other time. But there's always a standard of questions that they ask. So solve the last year papers and see where you stand. If your score is dipping and there are certain areas you need to work on, do that. I mean, give certain time. Don't be like, I'll do it and I'll qualify.
ग्रेट, तो ये तो रहा सीसैट। तो अब आप बताइए मीनल, जो प्रीलिम्स की तैयारी होती है, राइट, तो उसकी तैयारी आपने, अगर हम सब्जेक्ट वाइज भी ले लें, तो उसकी तैयारी आपने कैसे की? इफ यू कुड शेड सम लाइट ऑन क्या रिसोर्सेज आपने यूज किए, एंड लाइक यू नो हर सब्जेक्ट में आपको सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक्स कौन से लगे आउट ऑफ द द प्रीवियस ईयर पेपर्स भी आपने ट्रेंड तो देखा होगा, तो उसके बेसिस में जब आप भी तैयारी कर रहे थे आपको क्या लगा, क्योंकि आपने 3 अटेम्प्ट्स भी दिए हैं, तो उसके अटेम्प्ट्स में भी आपको क्या लगा, कौन से सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स रहे हैं जिनसे ज्यादा क्वेश्चंस आए हैं?
ओके, सो फर्स्टली प्रीलिम्स के लिए स्टैंडर्ड बुक्स होती हैं, मतलब आई जनरली से इट्स इंटेंसिव एक्सटेंसिव, वेयर देयर आर 5 standard books and you read those books and revise and re-revise them. So for polity there is no second other than Lakshmikant. For modern India there's no second than Spectrum. For ancient India, do not read anything apart from Arish Sharma. And for geography, it's the NCRTs that matter. For economics, I did pick up Sri Ram's book from the market and did my current affairs. So these are the 5 main core subjects. And also environment. There is a Shankar IS book that's very popular and most of the student community reads it. So I read that only. But the key to prelims is how well you revise it. Because that is where people falter. So अगर आपने polity पढ़ी है, तो there is always a pattern you will see in terms of constitutional bodies, कि इलेक्शन कमीशन है, यूपीएससी है, जो भी बॉडीज है, इनके अपॉइंटमेंट्स प्रेसिडेंट कर रहा है, तो वो पैटर्न्स ड्रॉ करना, उन्हें सेक्शंस में पढ़ना. सो देयर वुड बी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडीज एंड स्टैट्यूटरी बॉडीज एंड देन देयर वुड बी स्टेट लेजिस्लेचर एंड एग्जीक्यूटिव एंड सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेचर एंड एग्जीक्यूटिव. सो रीड इट लाइक दैट. डू नॉट रीड वन बुक, द एंटायर बुक इन वन गो, बिकॉज इट विल गेट बोरिंग. So in Spectrum as well, if you see the number of acts we've had, Charter Act, and then we move on to Government of India Acts, there has been an evolution on the amount of power that was devolved to the Indians, even though it was farcical. पर वो evolution अगर आप एक बार समझ जाओगे, and that can happen only when you make notes and read the book again and again and again, तो वो learn करना आसान हो जाएगा, and to apply it in prelims will also become easier. Same goes for environment and same goes for geography and then economics. But again here, इसमें last year की UPSC question solve करना important हो जाता है. Why I'll tell you is, there is an element of reverse engineering that you need to apply. मतलब geography में there's been a trend of asking questions, जैसे कि location of resources, location of cities, and there are various other disaster related questions. तो अगर आपको पता है कि UPSC में ऐसे questions आते हैं, तो आप reverse engineering लगा के वो text दोबारा वैसे पढ़ने की कोशिश करोगे, because not everyone knows what is asked. I mean, it's all a process to know that how a text needs to be read, even though it's a 6th class का NCERT. And same goes for environment. I think environment में last year के questions matter a lot, because sometimes I think last year there were not many questions from environment, but there have been times when environment questions used to touch 15 plus. And how is they'll give you a set of birds and say कौन सी endangered है.
Okay.
Then they'll ask you location of wetlands, या फिर रामसर में है कि नहीं, and all that. So to really understand how questions are asked and then go back to your text and read it in the sense that this is how it need to be read. And जब revision कर रहे हो for prelims again, school में जैसे how our mothers or teachers used to ask us, चल बता, I mean, how this corresponds to this side of the table, so tell me what it is. So don't revise by looking into the book. Revise, close the book, and try recalling things, and then just look at the book जहाँ पे आपने falter किया है. So that is the key to revisions.
So एक चीज़ जो आपने मेंशन की, 2 चीज़ इनफैक्ट जिसके बारे में मैं पूछूंगी. पहला ये कि यू मेंशन दी NCERTs.
Yes.
तो NCERTs में 2 बहुत कॉमन क्वेश्चंस हमारे सारे एस्पिरेंट्स जो हमें पूछते हैं. फर्स्ट इज दैट इज इट मैंडेटरी कि 6 to 12 की पूरी NCERTs पढ़ो, बिकॉज कुछ टॉपर्स कहते हैं कि 6 to 12 पढ़नी है, कुछ कहते हैं कि 9 to 12 पढ़ लो, 6 to 8 का वेरी जस्ट लाइक अ ग्लांस. तो व्हाट वुड यू से NCERT के लिए 6 to 12 or 9 to 12? How is it?
So, मेरा advice would be from the perspective of a person who's prepared for prelims thrice. So, I have a bias कि हर साल नई किताब उठानी थी. So, I did 6 to 12.
Okay.
And I felt that they were important.
Okay.
Howsoever, you need to define it subject-wise. Like for polity, I necessarily don't recommend 6th to 10th ka kitab, because it's Lakshmikant, and 11th, 12th ka little bit you can read. Same goes for geography, though 6th to 12th is very important, irrespective of it's your first attempt or your second attempt or your third attempt. And economics ke liye again, 6th to 10th not important, 11th, 12th is. So it depends on the subject as well. environment, there's 12th class biology book that has a certain portion, and then there are people who recommend ICSE, ISC books also. But I personally did not read it.
Okay.
I just relied on Shankar, and I did my current affairs.
Okay.
So it all needs to be figured out in the process. For me, it was natural. बच्चों से बात करके, teachers से बात करके, I just drew some conclusions by myself.
NCERT पे ही एक और question रहता है कि should we follow the old NCERTs or the new? What would you say? What did you do?
Again, I am speaking from a very biased perspective. तो जैसे कि ancient India में R.S. Sharma is very important. But I went on also to read Themes in India Part 1. And there's a 6th class NCERT जिससे 2016 में काफ़ी questions आए थे one word वाले.
Okay.
मैंने तीनों पढ़ दी थी.
Okay.
Medieval India में again, I did not touch Satish Chandra, which is the class 11th, very extensive book, because I believe उसमें art culture ज़्यादा आता है. And I just did Themes in India Part 2, which had a lot of Sufism and all these questions that are very popular. And modern India में I did not touch any NCERT. I just read Spectrum.
Okay.
So again, it becomes a mixed combination of did I finish the syllabus in reality? That's it.
Perfect. तो मेंस के बारे में बताइए, मेंस की तैयारी आपकी कैसी रही? If you could again mention to everyone regarding the subjects, वापस से आपने क्या similar resources use किए, or did you do something different? Maybe if you could just break it down GS paper के according. Yeah.
So the first thing that I want to state at the outset is prelims के बाद मत पूछना कि मेंस के लिए तैयारी कैसे करें. Do not engross yourself in prelims that much that after prelims you turn into a clueless person. So it needs to be integrated. There's no compartmentalized preparation. I've stated it very often. जैसे कि Champaran Satyagraha might be a topic for prelims, and you will read the details about it, what happened, when happened. But in mains, the answer will not be what was Champaran. The answer would be was Gandhi's method of Satyagraha effective? So you'll be able to write that answer only if you know Champaran में क्या हुआ था, because Gandhi did win in a sense in Champaran. So the preparation is integrated. Howsoever, mains becomes a little detailed and conceptual. So you finish your mains portion while you're reading your books for prelims perspective as well. So when I'm reading history, I make it a point that I'm reading it both ways. I'm also reading the little details that are there for prelims. I'm also conceptually understanding the interlinkages. Even for ancient India, if you see how the polity has evolved with time, is that it became less autocratic. Or for that matter, religion. From early Vedic to Gupta period, it degraded low and low. So study with that analytical mind also. As far as resources are concerned for me, so I think I'll answer in two parts. First is resources and second is answer writing.
Okay.
So when it comes to resources in GS paper 1, it consists of static portions of history, geography, society and globalization. History and geography resources stay the same. It's as you studied in prelims.
Okay.
But what becomes important here is to solve the last year papers for mains. Because if you analyze, for example, if anyone has amongst the aspirants of modern India questions that have been asked in last year, बहुत common thread run करता है. Nationalism पे है, Gandhi पे है. Very, very common and oft asked questions are there.
जी.
So in history, the focus needs to be on solving last year papers, mocks ले लीजिएगा जो भी test series सब लेते हैं, और sources वही रहेंगे. There is no change in sources. Geography, again, NCERTs are very important. But again, focus of study becomes different. So, for example, if there is cyclone, in prelims, the importance is that you remember the factors responsible for the formation. Yeah, this is the temperature, surface temperature and all of that. But the answer would be in front of you. So there will be 4 options and you'll be able to analyze, yeah, temperature was this and this not. In mains, there's nothing in front of you except a blank page. So you need to recall, and that can happen if your notes are very nice. And diagram becomes important for a cyclone. So which are given very clearly in NCERT. So geography ka perspective is to really know the exact terms, exact the conditions for formation of cyclone and a diagram.
Great. So ये थी हमारी GS1. अब GS2.
So GS2, I'll tell you again, I've had a bias because I have my optional as public administration. So when it comes to the portion of governance and polity, I had an added advantage of having public administration as an optional, but I'll tell it otherwise as well. For polity, Lakshmikant does not suffice for GS paper 2. What you need to focus is on last year question papers, because, for example, the question is the president a rubber stamp? So for that, you need to have a base of probably a value-added material from a coaching institute. I personally do not know of a book that really teaches that. For me, it was my public administration notes. So for polity portion, have something in hand, and I would not be able to recommend because I never use something other than my optional. For governance, I believe ARC reports are very important because I really do not know how some people discredit it. ARC reports, certain ones, example on local governance or public order, are very important with respect to governance because you cannot source this information from anywhere else. For example, in GS paper 2 this year, there was a question on citizen charters. So it matters if you really wrote the exact things rather than writing very generically. So everyone knows citizen charters are a problem because they do not have a time standard or a quality service delivery standard. But these are very generic words. If you read the ARC, you'll find detailed analysis of what's wrong with citizen charters and a very detailed and concrete solution of it. So read them, read the specific ones. I've stated it on my blog as well, that which ones to actually read, and make it a point that you read it from a problem solution approach. There is a lot of detailed explanation in the second ARC reports because of course they're extensive and they run up to 200 pages as well. So read only the relevant stuff and have that common sense on what's not relevant. So for governance, this is important, and last year papers I cannot emphasize more are very important. But then there is social issues, in which there's a static portion on NGOs and I think there is civil society and civil services reforms and all of that. So for that, you can pick up any value-added material from the market, or you can use internet. It's very basic for NGOs, what have been their problems. Always have examples on your mind that these are the NGOs and these were the problems, and then the solutions. So if you keep track of current affairs, you'll know that there's been NGO Darpan, there've been accreditation guidelines, and you have that thing in mind. And for social issues and health education, I believe that they are very extensive issues, and they're mostly covered with newspapers or current affair booklets that you use. But how do you compile that entire knowledge is, again, have A4 size notes. So if it's health, have a portion for problems. There are umpteen number of problems, and prefer categorizing them subsection wise. Like there is an infrastructure problem, there's a personnel ka problem, there's a finance ka problem. And then you can move on to solutions. So again, in solutions for social issues, I personally believe use committee recommendations. That is, you might say something that's right, but if your peer, because the checking is relative, if he uses the name of a committee, he will get 2 marks more than you. So why lose that? So always have a committee recommendation that such and such committee recommended such and such for the particular sector. Have the name of schemes. So they will never go and asking analysis of the National Child Policy. They will never ask it because UPSC is very generic. So they'll ask questions on what is the problem with child-related policies in India. But again, GS paper 2 people do not score much is because they will write generic things. If I ask even you will be able to tell me what's the problem with children's policy in India, right? So, but if you use committee recommendations and if you use statistics and they're written on a page in front of you, not like your knowledge is scattered at several places, you'd be able to attempt the question very nicely and efficiently. So
that will give you that edge over others.
And it's very easy to do. So if I'm saying that you're investing 1.5 years in preparation full time, and if you're really not making an effort to have that edge, because every year standard बढ़ता जा रहा है. I mean, you'll see the kind of people who are getting through. They're way more intelligent. They've started preparation. I mean, I've been getting mails for students who just passed out of class 12th or just doing class 11th. So that's the kind of enthusiasm for this exam. And if you're really giving full time to this preparation and you're complacent, I mean, you're digging your own grave. So this is GS paper 2. Paper 3 is the most extensive and the most interesting paper according to me. This year the marks have not been well because they trick people into asking static. So every year, like at least 2017, I know when I read the paper, there were a lot of current questions like simultaneous elections and etc. This year the questions were out of the blue. There was Bose-Einstein model, and there was Biodiversity Act, and there was biopharmacy. So these were issues that people did not really know if they're not well read. So mains again do not have your emphasis on current affairs. A lot of people just do current affairs and they see that they can source static answers from that. It will not work. So let me go topic wise. So first is economics. Again, your prelims course, prelims, whatever you studied, the basic concepts, revenue deficit, fiscal deficit will remain the same. But what becomes important here is economic survey and budget. Primarily because economic surveys cover concepts. So there was a concept on demonetization, or there's a concept on global decoupling of growth. These concepts, the graphs that they give, the stats that they give become very important. So I'm not saying read the entire economic survey. You can pick up a summary and you can read the concept and note down the stats somewhere. They're very important. And same goes to the budget. The important schemes and all, they might be used somewhere in the GS paper 3 because current is important for paper 3. GS paper 3 is very analytical and it can be scoring if you really read it in depth. At least the economic section. Then we move on to agriculture. Again, for me, the source for agriculture was value-added material from the market, because there are portions of procurement, marketing, and food processing that need to be first done conceptually. Then you can have diagrams, forward linkage, backward linkages. You can have statistics. I think this year's economic survey had a lot on agriculture and climate change. So covering topics like that will help you finish agriculture. Science and tech, again, I've never touched a book for science and tech. अगर big data है या फिर artificial intelligence है, these have been topics that have been in news for the longest period of time. So if you're reading the newspaper, make it a point कि मैं definition लिख लूँ. You know, even today if I ask someone the definition of AI, they're not able to tell. So AI की definition होगी, और AI के prospects क्या है, industry में क्या है, agriculture में क्या है, health में क्या है, education में क्या है. Just write it down and write the cons of it, the ethical cons and otherwise, and have a solution in your mind and the impact on India specifically that AI will have. So when you're doing a topic, I say it again and again, from the syllabus that is stuck in your in front of your study table and you've remembered it, have a pros cons solution approach. That will make your study easier. Then there's environment. Again, a lot of people focus on current because current aata hai. But this year they asked Biodiversity Act. So if I personally had revised my static and gone, so I could really write exactly what it was and what are the issues. People could not.
They were just focusing on current affairs.
They do focus on current affairs. So if you do not know what's the fundamentals of that act, why was it enacted, who administers it, you'll never be able to write a good answer. Again, I say that you will get marks, and people do, but won't. If that doesn't scale up, there is no point. So read your static well. And Biodiversity Act, in my opinion, was not even in news that they asked. They just asked that question.
So now, just before you move to GES 4, I'll like to just tell all the aspirants also that Meenal is actually very active on Quora, and also she has her own blog, and she is helping out a lot of aspirants tayari karne ke liye. And Unacademy is also helping all the other aspirants. So if you have still not checked out Unacademy Plus, then there is a link in the description that you can check. There is an ad that's going to be played right now. Check the Unacademy Plus subscription and get your preparation set.
How should you prepare for an exam as demanding as UPSC? I have a simple trick. We all know it, but rarely follow it. Syllabus, previous year questions, basic texts, and revision. Repeated revision. Be it for GS prelims or mains, history, polity, or art and culture, I consolidate the subject matter as per the evolving demand of UPSC. You need not go anywhere else for notes. During my bachelor's and master's, I have explored history as a subject deeply. I was guided by excellent teachers from across the world. Through my courses, you will benefit from this in-depth knowledge. I make sure that nothing relevant is excluded and nothing irrelevant is included. Every second of your preparation counts. Through my courses, you will learn exactly what to study, how much to study, and how to revise. You yourself will be able to analyze how aligned your preparation is to the expectations of the exam. My name is Nandini Maharaj, and I teach live for UPSC CSE on Unacademy Plus.
So great. So Meenal, अब बचा है हमारा GS4.
Yeah.
So that's, again, the final GS. So let's move on to GS4.
When I wrote my first test for ethics, I was told that you write a lot and you'll never get marks.
Okay.
So the key to scoring in paper 4
Mm-hmm.
is to write as organic as possible and not be mechanical. Mechanical in the sense, do not pick up a book, say lexicon, and just chapo the definition. Do not do that.
Okay.
If there is the values that are there, the ethics like integrity and objectivity and leadership and whatever, there are hundreds of them. So have a definition, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but also have examples for it. So if you write an integrity, you can pick up a personality like TN Session.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have your personal example prepared. So
Mhm.
that if tomorrow there is a question,
Mhm.
you do not write something from a book.
Mhm.
It looks extremely weird, and trust me, the scores are very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
In section A, I'll go section A, section B wise. Section A, there are two portions. One is ethical stuff, which
Mhm.
is on ethics and the values. And the second category in section A is governance related, like
Mhm.
probity and administration and all of
Mhm.
that. So for section A, I believe pick up a standard book. I use lexicon personally and a lot of internet.
Mm-hmm.
There is also this book of D.K. Jain, if I'm not wrong. There was this 2014 topper in the
Mhm.
market. A lot of people are using that book, or they can be any online resource that you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But have an approach of developing dimensions to it. Now, how do you
Mhm.
develop dimensions? Is that there are schools in ethics. There is a Gandhian school, there is a virtue school, there is a utilitarian school, there is J.S. Mill, and there are a number of standard schools in ethics, which is
Mhm.
given in the syllabus as well. Develop your answer with respect to these schools. So if it's utilitarianism and there's a question on corruption, you do believe that solving it would lead to maximum happiness for maximum numbers. Try exploring as many dimensions in section A very organically,
Mhm.
as much as is possible, and this will come with practice. So for section A, we keep on picking questions from the market, because आपका जो पढ़ाई किताब से वो बहुत जल्दी पूरा हो जाएगा.
जी.
But you need to pick up questions from various sources and mocks, and last year papers are very, very important for ethics. Keep on practicing them, write them, get it checked by someone, and
Mhm.
see if it really makes sense to others.
Mhm.
With section B, I believe case studies are very scoring, and try solving them first, then go to section A. But in section B, what matters is how nicely you represent all the options and the analysis of it. So how I did it was I first used to analyze what the case study is asking, the gist of it,
Mhm.
in my own words. So I remember there was a case study on whistleblowers. So what I did was, initially I wrote 2-3 examples on Indian whistleblowers and what they did and what was the consequence. And then I moved to really explaining the case study. Then I contrast values involved in the case study. So
Mhm.
objectivity might be in conflict with in personal integrity, or there may be other private interest might be in conflict with public interest. So I used to
Mhm.
write public interest versus private interest, underline. I used to explain it in one line.
Mhm.
Is to go contrasting values, like at least 7 to 8 of them in one line. Then I used to move on to write the options for what should be done, as because they put you in a position.
Mhm.
So write the option from the least commonsensical to the most commonsensical one. So the first option should be what you'll not do at all. But you write it down, you write the merits of it, the demerits of it. Then you say you will not choose it because ABCD. And second option, and then the third option would be the one that you will really pick, and write the merits and the demerits, and then say you'll pick it up because this and this is true. Again, here examples, case studies using international personalities, national personalities will add up. Be as organic as possible.
Great. So Meenal, let's just now move to the optional. आपकी optional पबात थी, right? तो
Yeah.
उसके बारे में अगर आप हमारे सारे learners को बता सको, like कैसी तैयारी की थी आपने, resources अगर आपको याद है उसके, आपने क्या use किए थे,
Sure.
and कोई भी ऐसे tips या pointers जो आप उनको कहना चाहोगे, अगर वो अभी decide ही कर रहे हैं कि उनको ये optional लेना चाहिए यार.
So with public administration, I believe I've been a lucky clown, because first I took this optional without much introspection. I'm a humanities student. I did history, political science, contemporary India, and all these subjects, and then I went on for public administration, which was bizarre, but howsoever turned out lucky for me this year. So with public administration, there are standard books, which is Thinkers, it's Prasad and Prasad. With Mohit Bhattacharya, there's New Horizons. There is also a blue book and this book on society and development, which these are the standard books that need to be referred. A lot of people who refer to Fadia, and there are a number of books for public administration present. I did not. These are the only books I referred to because my maximum reliance was on coaching notes. Because I took coaching for public administration, my reliance was on to read them and make notes out of them and revise them again and again. Now, how I approached them was, if it's a thinker called Max Weber or Mary Parker Foley, I used to write, again, note making was central here. So I used to write what their thought process was, where all it's been criticized, and if there is a current relevant to it as well. So, for example, nudge economics has been talked about, behavioral economics and all of that. I could really relate it to some thinkers and make it more relevant for the examination. So that focus again came with practice because, it's somehow stupid that when you don't clear prelims, you study for mains.
Okay.
Which is stupid on your part, but that's what I did. So my public administration with each passing year from 2016 became stronger and stronger because I was rereading and reanalyzing and reading current and all these sources that are present online to really connect paper 1, paper 2 and all the topics in each paper itself. So if, for example, I'll tell you, paper 1 has thinkers, which is, for example, let's take Rensis Likert. He talks about consultative leadership. And there is a topic on accountability and control, which is about citizen-centric administration, RTI, citizen charters, and there's local governance in paper 2. You can really connect them to Likert. You can really connect them to Mary Parker Foley. And that is how you need to apply the thinkers, because without application, your score will not fructify. So my paper 2 score is 168, the highest is 169 this year. And that happened only because every question I made it a point that there is a thinker. No matter how I snatched it or it was commonsensically relevant, but I made it a point that thinker to likhna hai. Ab कैसे आप practice के साथ develop करोगे वो habit, that will come with practice. For public administration, apart from the standard books, ARCs are extremely important. Like I cannot emphasize more. Paper 2 के लिए तो generic पढ़ना ही है, जो थोड़े बहुत ARCs हैं. PubAd के लिए all of them. जी. Just read them, analyze them, make notes out of them, apply them while you're writing questions, and make sure that it's on your tips when you're writing the exam. So for public administration, my strategy was, of course, reading, gaining conceptual clarity. Coaching played a very, very important role, I stated very frankly. And I'm making notes concept-wise or topic-wise, so that the keywords, as I say, are present right in front of you. So development models here, they are trust-based and they are need-based and whatever. They were present with the thinkers, whatever the model talked about and whatever was the critical analysis of it. So there's also rigs and there are thinkers in comparative administrative thinking. I made it a point that उसमें current का मैं कोई example डालूं, definition डालूं और कौन से thinkers थे इसके. So that came with a lot of hard work. Public administration, again, as I said, I was a lucky clown, but your emphasis needs to be on conceptual clarity, note making and answer writing. And stating this as an add-on, you've not asked me, a lot of people ask me GS में आंसर राइटिंग और ऑप्शन में डिफरेंट होती है. नहीं, मैंने बिल्कुल सेम लिखा है. देयर इज नो डिफरेंस दैट आई मेड. लॉट ऑफ पीपल से ऑप्शनल डिस्क्रिप्टिव लिख दो, GS ऑब्जेक्टिव. आई कांट डू इट. आई डिडंट डू इट.
सेम ही रखा था आपने. Perfect. So अब with all of this, we finally reach the interview stage. जब ये सब आपने clear कर लिया, तो थोड़ा सा अगर आप बता सको aspirants को, interview के दिन आपका कैसा गया? How did you prepare for your interview? Maybe DAF के time से ही, like if you had something in mind, interview कैसा गया? How did you prepare for it? Or if you remember any questions जो interview में आए थे which were interesting, or some questions which you couldn't answer.
So I don't know how capable I am to answer this because my interview score is very poor. It's 157.
Okay.
And the primary reason that I personally attribute is because my hobby was reading feminist thought and discourses. That doesn't really go down well with the NDLs.
Okay.
But again, it might have been other reasons that I'm extremely upfront. I don't look that gullible, and I talk endlessly. There might be reasons, but I also feel that a failure can elaborate on the strategy much better than the one who succeeded. So interview is all about your personality, not how much you know. That is what people say. I don't believe in that. I also feel that you should have basic knowledge of very important national, international happenings. So if there's something happening in Afghanistan, and if you do not know, what's the role India is playing and what are the dynamics of the entire situation there, you are at fault. You can't go and just blabber anything and expect them to give marks. So first is to stick to a newspaper and read it very thoroughly from a perspective क्या इस पे answer आ गया, question आ गया तो मैं कैसे बोलूँगा या बोलूँगी. So practice yourself, give a lot of mocks. And second most important thing is deconstruct your DAF. Every word on your DAF should be well prepared for. So I remember I stay in a place called Bengali Library Road. It has nothing to do with Bengalis, but because it's a landmark, they've named the road as that. So it's present on the first page of the DAF. And in a mock, they asked me, what is the status of Bengalis in Uttarakhand? And I was blank. Because I did not know, where did that come from? So everything in your, if the name of the college is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose something, so who was he? What did he do? St. Stephen's College, so who was St. Stephen's? So all deconstruct every little thing in your DAF, because I remember my first question when Manoj Soni sir asked me was about postal codes, because in the first page of your DAF, I've written my postal code is 248001. So he asked me, break it down for me. I did not know it. And then he asked me if post offices are relevant, because that's a consequential question. Should government withdraw or not? But all that questions he could derive from that one thing. So break down your DAF to as closely as possible and write it down. So for me, writing down in one line or 2 lines about every aspect of your DAF makes it easy for you to say the same thing again and again in a mock. Because, for example, why IS, you'll say it as 10 different things if 10 different people ask you. And then you lose the plot one day because the stress is so much of the interview. So write it down, 2 points, that why IS. And then go and speak it out in that manner. So I'm not saying rattafy, because of course that will show in the interview, but have a basic idea of if they ask me about this aspect of my curricular activity, I have to answer it like this. So interview is all about that. Plus I personally recommend watching this video of 2017 topper called Abhijit Sinha. It's present on YouTube. He scored a 204 in the interview, and all because his tactic was of pausing and answering. So how a lion goes 2 steps backward and then pounces on its prey. So he used to think for 3-4 seconds of what the question's being asked and then answer very, very on point and relevant. So I have a very calm nature, go there, sit, have a normal conversation, but with a very, very open and conscious mind.
So I think ये बहुत ही important tips थे जो you have shared with your experiences that you had. So I think Meenal, हमने पूरे ही exam का that entire journey which you had, you shared with all aspirants here. I'm sure कि बहुत सारे लोगों के लिए ये बहुत helpful रहेगा. Definitely getting to know more about this entire process, which obviously we all know it's a very challenging one. So now we move from after all this intense discussion of the exam. हम एक light moment में चलते हैं where we have a rapid fire round where I'm just going to ask you some very quick short questions about you. Just so that हमारे aspirants get to know more about the real Meenal also. So questions के answers actually आपको बस एक word या एक line में बोलना है. You won't have too much time to think. Yes. So are you ready for your questions?
Yes.
Perfect. So what are you most excited about these days?
The prospects that my future life holds.
Great. If you could switch your life with someone for a day, would you? And if yes, then who would it be?
Michelle Obama.
So which was your worst subject in school?
Maths.
If you could make a documentary, what would it be about?
It would be about the work in progress, that's me.
Great. What is your biggest weakness?
My emotions.
So one last question, which is, if you could offer your 13-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Do not trust people so easily.
So those were all the questions that I had, Meenal.
It's so nice. I felt it's the best part of the interview.
Because you don't have to think much about the exam. Great. So we have something small here from Unacademy for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You can keep it here. No problem. tends to get heavy. Great. So before we wrap up the show, I would you've obviously shared so much of knowledge हमारे सारे aspirants के लिए. अब हम बस request करेंगे अगर एक message आप हमारे सारे aspirants को दो, something that could keep them motivated because our prelims भी आने वाली है. Anything that you would like to share?
Just two very small things that I've oft stated. The first is that victory is a cause and not an effect. That is, you need to create it by working very, very hard. There are no shortcuts. And if any topper does misguide you, because I've been a victim of it, just do not believe it. They all work hard, they all read basic books, they all make notes, they all revise and practice, and that is why they are there where they are. So really work hard and take care of yourself. And second important thing that I would like to say is that hope is a decision. That is, when I failed my first two prelims, there was crying, there were tears involved, there was stress and anxiety, but I still was hopeful कि अगर मैं मेहनत कर लूँगी, I will see my name in that list. So that was a decision I made somewhere in my mind and heart, which is I was hopeful for it. So always be hopeful and trust in yourself and work very hard towards your goal. And I'm sure I'm going to hear more chamomile tea toppers with some of you who are seeing this video today. So thank you.
Great. So now, before we end this episode, एक last part हमारा रह जाता है, which is tag a friend. So who would you like to tag?
I will tag Himanshu Nagpal. He's ranked 26 this year. And I'm sure if he's going to come here, he's just 22 and he'll have some very handy tips for all the aspirants.
That's great.
Yes.
So Meenal, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for giving your time, coming down here, spending the time with us and sharing all your knowledge for our aspirants. And on behalf of the entire Unacademy team, once again, congratulations and all the very best for your future.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.